All the way back in 1991, Ayrton Senna won a Formula 1 race driving with only one gear. And in this video, I'm going to try and do the exact same thing against the 0% AI difficulty around the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix track. Is this actually possible? Well, I'm not going to lie to you lot, I've actually not driven a lap of this track yet, so I've got no idea whether or not I can actually complete this challenge. So you're probably wondering what gear I'm actually going to use for this challenge, and I've gone with 5th gear. And I've chosen 5th gear because I still feel like I'll be able to get decent acceleration and top speed leaving the corners and on the straights, and while actually going through the corners, I'll be able to take them at a normal level. However, unsurprisingly, my start was not good at all. I mean, going from 0 miles an hour to 150 miles an hour in 5th gear probably isn't the smartest decision. So as you can probably imagine, being in 5th gear, I thought that I could just push way harder leaving the corners and I wouldn't struggle with traction at all. And yes, that is my excuse for completely exceeding track limits leaving turn 1. Moving on, we're now coming up to the back of 0% AI leaving turn 3. And straight away, I got past Nico Hülkenberg, Logan Sargent and Zhou Guanyu. I really wanted to try and get past both Alpines, but I knew that I had to take a wide line going through turn 5 so I could get a good enough exit for the long back straight that we're about to go on. Leaving the corner, I did momentarily get past Pierre Gasly, but we're about to see the full limitation of being only allowed in 5th gear. I mean, I just got completely rinsed going down this straight. The car could only hit 160 miles an hour and everyone around me was probably getting close to 200. And if Hülkenberg didn't hit into me there, I would have been back in last place. And because of this, going into turn 6, I knew that I had to make a lot of overtakes and I went up the inside of 4 cars. And leaving turn 7, once again, I tried to get a good exit by taking a wide line and eventually I got the move done on Esteban Ocon. But also once again, I was going to get overtaken by a few cars. Luckily for me though, this time it would only be both Alpines, and going into turn 9, I knew that I could get back past both of them straight away. And that's exactly what I did. On the exit of the corner, for a moment I had a bit of a scare with a big wobble, but I held it together and I was now up to P15 after 2.5 sectors. To be honest, I think that that's gone pretty well, and now we're coming into my best section of the track because this section only has corners and no straights. And because of this, I wanted to make some overtakes and quickly. I tried to go around the outside of Fernando Alonso in turn 16, but I managed to get past him in the double left-hander. And leaving that section of corners, I got a really good exit and I managed to get past Alex Albon and almost got past Kevin Magnussen. However, that overtake would have to wait for the final corner where I made another overtake around the outside of the 0% AI, and now I was finishing the first lap in 12th position, which I was very happy with. However, sadly, after this I wouldn't make much progress. So yeah, as you just saw, going through the first 2 sectors, I didn't make any progress, but that just made the 3rd sector all the more important. I made my first permanent overtake of this lap around the outside of Lance Stroll at turn 9, and then I tried to get a better exit than Daniel Ricciardo. This overtake would have to wait until turn 12 though, but eventually I did get the move done. Annoyingly, going through the middle part of the final sector, I couldn't make an overtake on Yuki Tsunoda. However, I knew that I just had to wait and I would eventually make the move. And because of this, I decided to wait for the final corner where I eventually got up the inside of Yuki, and I was now up to P9 after only 2 laps of racing. And to be honest, the exact same thing happened on the next lap. I didn't make any progress in the first 2 sectors, but by the 3rd sector I was coming up to a new group of cars. And by the way, I definitely didn't just use a flashback there because of a mistake I'd already made. However, this time I actually used my brain. I was very patient for the switchback and eventually got the move done before the second of the double left-hander. But on the exit of turn 14, unfortunately, I picked up my second warning of the race, and to be honest, at this point I was pretty prepared for getting a 3-second penalty. Although for me that just meant I had to make overtakes faster, and leaving the final corner I really tried to prioritise the exit so eventually I could get the move done into turn 1. And that's exactly what I did. I got up the inside of Checo and I was now into P7. He was down in P8, but to be fair, at the time of recording, that's his best result in the past 3 races. And once again, 2.5 laps later, I was coming into the final sector, catching up to a group of 2 cars. This time it was George Russell and Charles Leclerc, and coming into turn 12, I just broke way too late and accidentally basically tried to go around the outside of George Russell. Somehow it worked, but unfortunately I did pick up a 3-second penalty, which to be fair was inevitable. And I also made a move on Charles Leclerc, which put me up to P5 after only 6 laps of racing. And once again, we're coming into the 3rd sector. We're coming up to a new group of cars, and the first driver that I would be trying to overtake would be Lewis Hamilton. Going into turn 12, I tried to replicate that I made on his teammate on the previous lap, but this time I didn't really have the bottle and I really didn't want to risk a warning. And on the exit of the double left-hander, pretty much the exact same thing happened because I knew that I couldn't afford another penalty, but eventually I did get around the outside of Lewis. Because Lando Norris went into the pits, I was in a net P4, but I would try and overcut him and get into P3 by the time that I would pit at the end of this lap. To be honest, if I actually timed my exit out of the final corner a little bit better, I would have got past Oscar Piastri before lap 8. However, I was going to make a move up the inside into the first corner. This move would put me into P1, so now I had an entire lap in free air to try try and overcut Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Stupidly though, after basically obsessing over not getting a warning for the entirety of the past 2 laps, I got a warning on the exit of turn 2 under absolutely no pressure whatsoever, which was so frustrating. And now we're coming up to the pit lane. I'd had a good lap, I set a purple sector 1 and a green sector 2, but can someone explain to me how the hell I got a warning here for exceeding track limits? I might be completely wrong about this, but I thought that you could only get a warning for crossing the exit white line, not the entry. Anyway, please put this in the comments below because I'm genuinely still so confused. It was now time for my pit stop, and this only lasted 2.4 seconds, which is probably stakes fastest of the year, and I was a bit confused about what to do on the exit of the pit lane. So it actually took me a solid 3 seconds to realise that I could shift up to 5th gear on the exit of the pit lane. However, when I did, I eventually got going. I then had probably what was one of the slowest ever exits leaving the underground section of corners, but the good news was that I had overcut Lando Norris and I was now into 2nd place. All I had to do now was overtake Max Verstappen and build at least 3 seconds worth of a gap to him if I wanted to win this race. And by the end of this lap, I was under 4 seconds away from Max. By the end of lap 10, I was under 3 seconds away, and by the end of lap 11, I was under 2 seconds away, and I was gaining quickly on Max Verstappen. Now, as you can see in the background, I've sped up this lap because unsurprisingly, this is the lap where I actually caught up to him, and I knew that overtaking him quickly would be crucial to my success of winning this race. And luckily for me, I had caught up to Max by sector 3, and I knew that if I really wanted to win this race, I had to make an overtake as quick as possible. And into turn 12, I absolutely sent it down the inside of Max. I didn't make the move, but at least now I was side by side with him. And going through the double right-hander, unfortunately, I kind of had to let Max by because I couldn't afford a warning, and I tried to get a better exit than him, but well, I clearly forgot that I was in 5th gear. However, I hadn't given up yet, and I knew that there was an opportunity to go up the inside in the final corner, and that's exactly what I did, and I was now into the lead of the race. But then on the exit, well, I don't even know what I did here. It was just so stupid. But thankfully, the straight that we're on is very short, and this meant that I was able to get back up the inside of Max Verstappen and now into the lead of the race with a few corners, so I could gain just a little bit of time. So the good news was that I took turn 2 really well. I probably gained a little bit of time, but then going through turn 3, I just turned in way too early, and that meant that I had to brake going through the corner, which is usually flat out. And this only increased the amount of time that I would have lost anyway going down a straight, and now I knew that Max Verstappen was definitely going to get past me on the main back straight. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you lot, we're just going to go through the next 2 straights pretty quickly, because as you can imagine, I just made my way past Max in the chicane, and then, well, he got back past me. But on this lap, I was way closer to Max, and going around the outside of him at turn 9 put me into the lead of the race, and I knew that in this final sector, I had to break away from him as quick as possible. We're quickly going to go to the end of this lap to see how much of a gap that I can pull to Max, and I was hoping to just be over 1 second away from him. Sadly, I was just under 1 second away from Max. However, by the end of the next lap, I'd gained a full 2 seconds, and I was almost at my 3-second goal, and to be honest, at this point in the challenge, I thought that the video was already over. However, that would not be the case, and this is the reason that we're going to go through the entirety of this final lap. So initially, this lap actually started pretty well. I took turn 1 and 2 absolutely fine, and going through turn 3, I didn't make any mistake, unlike a previous attempt. However, on the exit of turn 3, I was just so stupid, and I tried to cut a bit more of the exit off to gain a little bit of time, and this picked up my second 3-second penalty. I had to find another 2 seconds on Max Verstappen because the gap was currently 4 seconds, and I would lose time the whole way down both of these back straights. By the time that I'd reached turn 9, the gap was 3.9 seconds, but by the time that Max Verstappen had reached turn 9, it was 3.1 seconds, so that meant that I had to gain 2.9 seconds in just 1 sector. The first corner that I could gain any time in was turn 12, and I knew that I had to be really committed through here if I wanted to complete the challenge. I took a really wide line and absolutely nailed the turn in, and this would definitely gain me some time. Next up was the double left-hander, and I knew that I had to be patient through here and try and get as good of an exit as possible, so I minimised the loss to Max Verstappen because he would definitely gain some time on the exit. Luckily for me, that's exactly what happened, and coming into the final 2 corners, I was 5 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, but the race was not over yet. After this was the final corner. Thankfully, I didn't make any mistakes, and as I crossed the line, the gap was 5.4 seconds, but the delta had not updated, and I didn't know whether or not I had actually completed this challenge. And then I found out that I had in fact completed the 0% AI versus 1 gear challenge by only half a second. Thank you all so much for watching, please subscribe and go and check out another one of my videos.